What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode. Today in this video, we're going to be taking the Mini apart some more. So this past weekend, I went kind of crazy. So you see the Mini now? Look at the state that I got it in. Pretty much almost everything on the front end of the car was removed. So the fender flares are gone. Wheels are removed. The entire front bumper is gone. The bumper bar is gone. Everything up front, pretty much other than the AC condenser, was removed. The reason why the AC condenser is still there is because there was R134 in the lines when I was taking everything apart. This past weekend, I had a friend come by and evacuate it all for me, and I also have another friend coming by, and he's gonna be bringing me a cherry picker. So with that, I'm gonna be able to pull the motor and put it on my engine stand that I have right there. But in today's video, I'm gonna show you the disassembly to get to this point. So let's jump right into it. So we're first going to begin by removing the wheels. We're going to grab a 19mm socket and our DeWalt impact wrench, and we're going to take off all 4 of the lug nuts found on both wheels. So we're going to set the wheels aside, and that's going to give us access to the inner part of the fender. So what we're going to do at that point is then we're going to remove each and every one of the 10mm bolts and nuts that are securing the wide body fender flare onto the fender. Now we're only going to need to remove the front ones at this point. So once you remove those bolts, you can set them aside. Now be sure to organize them and put them in an area that you know where they are, so that when we need to put everything back together, we know where everything is. So repeat the same procedure to the passenger side and then set the fenders aside. Now I have a couple zip ties holding the wires out of the way from the wheels. Just cut them so that we can remove the bumper. Once you have those disconnected, you can remove the tow hook if you have it attached to your front bumper bar, and then there's going to be 4 hex bolts that are holding the bumper onto the front part of the vehicle. There's going to be 2 of them found up top, and there's going to be another additional one found on each fender that's going to need to be removed. Once you have those out, you can lift up and remove your entire bumper. Next up comes removing the intercooler. So the intercooler is connected both on the driver's side and passenger side front parts of the engine. Now there's going to be a clamp holding it down on both ends. Once you have both of those clamps loosened up, you should be able to pull forward on your intercooler and set it aside. With the intercooler removed, we should then be able to remove the hot side intercooler piping that's leading from the turbocharger to the intercooler. Now next up comes removing the windshield washer lines that are leading to each of the headlights. So for my Mini Cooper, my headlights have a windshield washer sprayer attached inside of them. So we're going to need to disconnect and remove the lines that are leading from the windshield washer tank to the actual headlight. So we're going to need to do this to each one of the headlights so that we can remove the entire assembly from the front of the car. Before we move down to the reservoir, there's going to be a little clip found on the top in the engine bay that we need to pop out so that the windshield washer tank can come out. After that, there's going to be 2 Torx bolts securing the windshield washer reservoir up to the front plastic part in the engine bay. After that, we can disconnect the windshield washer pump that's found on the bottom of the reservoir. Now, once we remove that, any excess fluid that's found in the reservoir will evacuate. So if you can catch it, that'll be awesome. In order to remove the entire reservoir and set it aside, we need to disconnect any connectors that we have leading to it. So anything that's electronic, so the pumps and any sensors need to be disconnected, but all I need to do is remove the power, remove a couple sensors to it, and that allowed me to remove the reservoir and the 2 lines leading to the headlights all in one piece. Next up comes removing the bumper bar. So this is the big metal piece that's attached to the front of the vehicle, and should you get in an accident, this is what is saving the entire front end from being completely damaged. So this is the support. So to remove this, we need to remove it from the plastic pieces that surround the radiator support. There's going to be 1 Torx found on the driver's side and another Torx found on the passenger side. Those little Torx screws need to be removed so that we can detach it from the Rad Support. Now on the back side of where we were just removing that 1 bolt, there's going to be 2 more additional Torx bolts that we need to remove. Now if your car's super rusty, these might be a little bit difficult to remove. Now for my car, only 1 of them was super bad. So I tried using penetrating fluid and that didn't make any difference, but as soon as I started to use a little bit of heat and I put some heat into the bolt, it came out like a charm. But once you remove those bolts, you're going to be removing the front bumper bar from the subframe. At this stage, we can go to the front side of the bumper bar, and there's going to be 6 nuts that we need to take off so that we can remove the entire bumper bar from the upper rad support and from the chassis, which is where it mounts to. Now once you take each one of those 6 off, we should be able to just slide the entire thing out. Now if there's any other wires or anything connected to it, be sure to disconnect them beforehand, and then you'll be on your ways. With that complete, we can then remove the hood lock carrier, which is the big U-shaped piece of steel that connects both the struts and the rad support together. there's going to be 4 bolts on the hood lock carrier, which needs to be removed and disconnected. Now that's going to loosen everything up and make everything free. There's then going to be 4 additional hex screws that we need to remove that are holding the hood release latch onto the hood lock carrier. Following that, there's going to be 1 bolt found on each side that's securing the hood lock carrier up to the rad support, and that's pretty much going to release it from the top of the vehicle. Now last but not least, we need to remove the cable that's leading from the interior of the car, which is the hood release, to the cables themselves found in the engine bay. Lift that out of the way and set it aside. The only thing that's holding the hood lock carrier in place right now is 4 little plastic clips. So once you pop each one of them out, the entire thing should be able to be lifted up and then put aside. Now what we're trying to do is basically remove the entire rad support so that we can get access to the engine bay. To loosen up the rad support, to get it removed, there's going to be 2 bolts, one of them found on each fender. You can use regular hand tools or an impact driver to take it out faster. After that, there's going to be 2 horns that are found on the passenger side wheel well, and you have to disconnect the wires that are leading to them. Now, if you can, try to label each one of the wires to make your life easier later by putting a little piece of tape on it and writing down what the function for it is. There's going to be another clip found on the bag that's holding the wires in place. At this point, there's a few Torx bolts that are securing the AC condenser up to the rad support. Now this has to be loosened up and then pushed kind of out of the way so that we can wiggle the rad support out with the AC condenser still attached to the car. So once the AC condenser is free from the rad support, there's going to be 1 bolt found on the driver's side wheel well area. It's a 10mm bolt. Take that out, remove it, and then at this point the entire rad support should be able to be lifted up and then removed. Now be careful when you're doing this, because if there's any other wires that you missed, they can get snagged on this. So just take your time and double check that everything is disconnected, and then you can pull the entire rad support off the front end of the vehicle. So we got a decent amount of stuff done today in the Mini. Now the only reason why we have to stop where we are now is because of the AC condenser. There's R134A refrigerant in the lines, and I can't just go ahead and evacuate them into the air, but I do have a friend that's coming down with the machine to properly and safely evacuate that. Now once that's done, I'll be able to continue with the build, pull actually everything else that's still in the engine bay, pull it out. So the engine, the trans, all the wiring has to be disconnected, and we're pretty much good to go at that point. So, you know, we got a lot done in this video, and I'm really excited, so this means that we're 1 step closer to getting this motor built. If you guys have any questions regarding the video, throw them down in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to help. Again, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.